All right. So I'm sitting here with Andre Hatchett. He's a young entrepreneur from Yonkers, New York. Correct me if I'm
Live in
wrong.
Yonkers. I do live in Yonkers.
All
Yes.
right. And my name is Patrice Danielle. For those of you who don't know, I am a blogger for idatedaily.com. And, Andre and I are just talking a little bit today about Tony Gaskins. He is a author and life coach who talks a lot about relationships. Grew up in a small town in Central Florida. Is married himself, a younger guy who tends to give a lot of advice geared towards, African American single females. And the latest and greatest that we have seen him post was about women who praise their boyfriends. And his message was, ladies, stop praising your boyfriends. He's not your husband yet. There's no need to be singing his praise on Facebook. There's no need to be acting like, he's the last man on this earth and that, he's the apple of your eye and there will be no other. Make him work for that praise. Make sure that, he is always loving you more. And, it was an ongoing conversation. So, Dre, just let me know what you think about that video in general.
I think it's stupid. I think it's really dumb and it's stupid. And we like praise.
Right.
Us as men, we prefer praise sometimes over sex.
Interesting.
A female, yeah, sometimes. A female who's emotionally supportive, who's catering to your ego and all that good stuff, that goes like leaps and bounds. We really dig that stuff.
So, go ahead.
And in the video, he's saying, don't praise your boyfriends because they won't marry you. But why would we marry you if you're not emotionally supportive and you don't praise us?
When is praising too much?
When we don't like you.
Wow.
If we don't like you, then we don't really care. But if we like you, that's it works.
So, and it's funny because in this whole relationship game is what, it is at times. We're always dodging each other or kind of like pouncing around each other, trying to figure out, not giving too much of ourselves. But then, some people are like, forget it, I'm going to open up and give all and take that gamble and just do it. And what I find a lot of men say is that, look, if I like you, I like you. If I don't, I don't. If I want to marry you, I'm going to marry you. You don't have to hold out sex for me. You don't have to hold out on moving in with me. You don't have to hold out on all these things. At the end of the day, if I like you, I like you. And so is that kind of similar to you saying at the end of the day, men don't necessarily like praise if they don't like you? So there can't be too much praise?
No, man. Especially us men who are overly ambitious, it's really hard. It is really hard when you want an above average life, especially as a black man. So the emotional ego support, pat on your back thing, like that really goes leaps and bounds. So we're gonna marry you if we want to marry you, and if you expect to be married. As you know, most of my friends are married and or engaged. Like,
right.
When I say most, I mean like 7 or 8 out of 10. I'm one of the last single.
Last of a dying breed.
and most of my friends are married before they were even 30. So I hang around married guys and engaged guys and long-term guys. Most of my friends aren't baby daddies and don't fit in that category.
Mm-hmm.
So, and their wives are, even my friends who aren't friends with each other, their wives are pretty similar and have similar attributes. Which, if you think about it, that's a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So friends who don't know each other, aren't friends with each other, who are married to females who have certain criteria and or qualities.
Right.
And my friends are different people. I have GED friends and PhD friends and law friends and doctor friends and all everything far in between. So I have a very diverse range of associates. But we like emotionally supportive females. We like emotionally supportive females who aren't sexually easy.
Okay.
Who aren't easy to get into bed. And he was talking about Facebook and Instagram. Don't praise. Like, we're not thinking about. We're not thinking about that crap.
Mm-hmm.
My friends don't think about that crap. We're not. We're thinking about, are you? If I lose my job, are you still going to be here?
Okay.
Are you going to help me get my resume together? Are you there when we need you? So yeah. I was not feeling Antonian on this one.
So, like, okay, what are some actions that you would say should separate wives versus girlfriends? You know, if you had to give advice to a young lady, and I mean young, like, you know, in high school, someone who's just now starting to date, you know, so someone who would be like your mentee or a family member or, you know, your daughter one day, what, as she continues dating and goes into adulthood, action should she, you know, be aware of or you know, be cognizant of that should separate her from a wife versus a girlfriend?
Well, she first has to figure out what kind of woman she is, what kind of guy she is, what kind of woman she is, and what kind of guy she's attracted to, and will allow to pursue her and vice versa. So she has to experiment. But a general rule is, even though it's 2014 and a lot of women, especially sisters, are dominating and getting advanced degrees, high-paying jobs, all this really wonderful stuff, we still will judge you on how soon you have sex with us, whether they're in high school or out of high school or professionals like us. So I would tell them, be selective of how many people you have sex with and how fast you have sex with them, and do they know each other, especially if they're younger and around the high school age, because we talk, especially younger guys. That's what they do. That's how they get their bravado and how they express their bravado. So I would tell them, you know, be careful who you have sex with and how soon into the relationship you guys have sex. That's what I would start off with, because I don't care what year it is, we're still judgmental on how soon we interact in that way.
So if I flip the script, what do you think men do that differentiate their actions towards wives versus towards girlfriends?
That's actually a great question. We do the exact opposite of what a lot of you females do. We do not talk about females we like, and we don't discuss how they are in bed with females who we look at as wives.
Interesting.
So, with all of my married and engaged and long-term relationship friends, I've never heard them say, "Yeah, my wife last night did this,"
right?
Or even before they were married, when they were dead, they never spoke about them. But these guys are very bravado guys, alpha dudes. You know, I hang around with some pretty bad about it dudes. You know, they do well. They like sports. They're, you know, jock type dudes. So they talked about other females before they were married and or engaged or dating these people, but they don't talk about it. They do not talk. We as men do not talk about how the females, so we take seriously how they perform in bed. That's probably one of the major defining things that you guys do, but we don't do at all. If you guys like us, you're talking about it all the damn time. We're not. We don't want our friends, you know, knowing certain things. So
right. Which,
girls,
you know, I guess some girls are like that, but I get what you're saying. I get where you're going. But so what about things that, you know, a girl would notice? So like girls who you talk about, you know, being in bed, you know, they don't know that you're talking about them, right? But what do you do to a girlfriend or versus a wife that, you know, she would notice, you know, the treatment that she notices?
Do we go to family events?
Nice.
Do we go to family events and do we invite you to ours?
You know what? That's a huge one I pay attention to just as I date. And I don't even try to bring people around my family who I don't take serious. And once I do take someone serious, if they weren't open to that, then I would take it as, okay, they must not be very serious about me. So that's an interesting one.
We would, you know, practically go through hurdles to, if you invite us to something that you involve your family, we would be there. We would be there, and or we would have a damn good reason. We would check on you while you're there. Mm-hmm. We would show a lot of interest.
Right.
With me, because I have a habit, I kind of lose interest pretty quick with a lot of people I date. So I know it's terrible. It's terrible. Well, with me, I'm very supportive. I'm a supportive guy. I'm like into that whole family stuff, hang around my friends, meet my nieces, and I meet your family kind of stuff. So if they ask me to do something with their family and I don't do it, I know, okay, yeah, I'm kind of checking out mentally at this point. So yeah, that's a really real one right there. Are we going to invite you to our family stuff, and are we going to go to your family stuff?
Yeah.
And friends.
Well, just going back to Tony Gaskins, I think that, his comment just about treating men or boyfriends as if they're husbands and all the examples he used, I didn't necessarily agree with. I think he took it a little too far. I don't think if you're a social media person, there's nothing wrong with being all on social media, talking about the love of your life. I just feel like in a lot of instances, women may treat boyfriends as if they're husbands, aside from social media, on a different level when it comes to how much they are giving of themselves, how much they're sacrificing, when it comes to their own careers, when it comes to their own time, when it comes to their own money, when it comes to, lots of independence that they let go of, for this person who's just a boyfriend. So when I talk about, how people need to not treat someone they're just dating as a husband, it's more about that sort of thing. And I guess it's because I'm such an independent woman.
But does the just a boyfriend want to marry you? He might be.
How do you know? You'll never know that until he gets on one knee.
At some point, Patrice, right? We don't just skip to engagement and marriage.
So what about the person who dates? What about the person who dates someone for 10 years and then they decide they're not getting married?
Well, that's the woman's fault. Yeah, like we're not. Yeah, like don't do it.
So what year do you stop? On year 5, when you're fully invested? On 8? On 2?
Well, you know what? Here's what my friends who are married, what their wives and or fiancés have in common is they expected to get married naturally. So in their mind, it's like, yeah, of course I'm getting married. Like, and a lot of times, females who grow up with a father in the home and or a stepfather and or they have a relationship with their father,
right?
The ones who expected more than the females who didn't have a father, stepfather, or see a married man in their lives. So their expectations, in general, of course, are lesser in terms of the marriage, as far as the sisters or a woman in general who have seen a married couple, married parents, or something along those lines. So the expectation factor is probably one of the biggest things that will decide in, do we look at you as a wife? You expect to get married. I personally, it's hard for me to date a woman long term. I mean, and in long term, past a month or 2 months.
Wow, Andre. I'm just messing with you.
If she's okay with being a baby mama or us having a child out of wedlock, and so if she's fine with me and her living together and have a child and not to be at least bare minimum engaged, like on the way to marriage,
right,
that would be a turn offer. I'm one of the guys who, it's called Date to Marry. I actually read a book about this. So I have to look at you as the wife to date you long term.
Right.
Past few months, I have to say, you know what, I'm going to marry you. Yeah, I haven't gotten married yet, but there's been a few in my 3 serious or semi-serious relationships in my adult life. I thought I was going to get married.
Right.
And I thought I was going to get married only after dating them for probably a few months or so. I was like, this has real potential. So I'm a potential person. Like, does this person have serious potential? Do I want this? Is it organic? Is it organic? Because her wanting me to marry her won't. It will help, but it won't determine my decision. Right. But yeah, that's some real stuff. Expectations are big.
Right, people setting expectations in the beginning.
And and it really can hold a lot of weight for a lot of guys, and even the guys. Most guys took this stuff about here. Like, I read books, stuff. I subscribe to that website. You ever heard their website, Black and Married with Kids? I watch DVDs.
I have.
I'm really into them. I really want to have like a really great marriage one day. So, it's real. And the expectation part from a woman it could be a really big turn on and or turn off.
Mm-hmm.
I did it one time. She said, "You know what? I'm going to have 2 of your sons," and I was like, "Okay."
Are we going to get married first?
That was the first thing I was saying. Patrice, I was thinking about, are we just gonna have my other? Are you okay with it? And I was put off. I was like, how low are your standards? You're just okay with having my sons before we even have a, it was like, oops, you're pregnant. It was, I'm gonna have 2 of your sons.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you expect to get married?
Right.
So expectation part is a big part.
Yeah, and I would also say setting the expectation and sticking to it. Not deciding that this is my expectation, but he doesn't agree. But I'm gonna change him. But I'm gonna lay off on my expectation. Then you find yourself just in an ongoing downward spiral.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd be interested in seeing or hearing what others have to say about this, especially if they watch that video. I mean, I'm sure you could go out there and Google Tony Gaskins and his outlook on women treating boyfriends as husbands. But until next time, Andre, thanks so much for the conversation.
Thank you, Patrice. Anytime. Look forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Thanks.